No screen.
OMG.
Oh, God.
Right. Yeah.
And we have action. We're live.
Very good. Very good. So we ready? Let's
We are.
go. Hi. We're just having a little pre-silliness action. My name is Nikki Woods, and I want to welcome you. Just first of all, let's give ourselves a push-up just for starting on time. Didn't know it was going to happen. But I'm Nikki Woods, and I want to welcome you to New Year, new book, free live training with myself, April Franks Hunt, and Asa Leveaux. We are going to give you all of the tools that you need to get your book going in the new year, and we are super excited about it. So we want to make sure that you have your notebook. We want to make sure you have a pen, or if you're like me and you can do it on your iPad or on your computer, just make sure you're able to take notes, because we're going to give you a lot of juicy information. We also want to make sure that you're sharing all this juicy information with all of your social followers, your friends, your fans, everybody that you're connected to on social media. So just make sure when you do share some of these nuggets that you tag it with the hashtag NYNB for New York, new book. New York, New Year, new book. April is doing all sorts of cool things with this. Yeah, I see you fooling around over there on the Google Hangout. But just make sure you're taking notes, and when you do share it, make sure that you hashtag so that everybody can get all the information grouped. And it would help if you're following all of us, and we will give you some of our Twitter handles and all that kind of stuff as we go through. But first, I want to introduce you to my partners in success as we take you into the new year with your new book. First, we have April.
Hey!
April is probably one of the most focused and funniest business people that I happen to know. She gets you right on task, but she does it in such an engaging way that you can't help but have fun while you're getting all your goals achieved. And she is the same way when it comes to making sure that you share your story, your greatness with the world. She has written her own books. She has developed her own businesses, and she knows how to put the two together so that you are successful with your new book in hand. April?
Hey, Nikki. Hey, Asa. Super excited to be here. I'm really looking forward to diving right into this training, and I'm super honored that we partnered up, because together, individually, we were already rock solid, but this trio is going to be simply amazing. So I'm just super looking forward to spilling the beans on some of the things that I've done personally, and other people as well. So really looking forward to that. So again, like Nikki said, make sure you're following us, that you're following the hashtag NYNB, and also that you're in the Facebook group as well, engaging, getting your questions answered. The one thing I want to say is, don't get off this hangout tonight without knowing what it is that you need to do, without knowing what your next steps are to leverage your authorship. And I'm looking forward to it. So, Nikki, thanks again. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to it.
I am really, really excited. Thank you, April. Now, Asa Leveaux, I'm not as quite as familiar with him. We're new to the meeting, but when I heard that he was the genius activator, I knew that I had to be connected. Anybody that can help you activate your genius is somebody that I need in my circle. And the time that we have been working together, I have come to respect him greatly, not only for what he does for people and helping them find their purpose and find their passion and then monetize it, but he has just got the best energy I have ever seen. I mean, he is constantly smiling. You see him constantly smiling, constantly laughing, and constantly motivating you to do better. So it's hard when you get to a certain level in life to find people that are constantly motivating you, even though they've already gotten to where they might want to be too. And he is one of those people. He takes you and he constantly challenges you to do better. And he's going to do that and also show you how you can leverage your book to share your genius with the world. So I am super excited to have him as a part of our team. Asa? Asa, are you there?
I am here. I am here.
Okay, good.
Thank you,
Good.
Nikki, for that. I appreciate it. And yes, we are brand new friends. I appreciate it. Honored by that. And so, to all of my new authors, it has been amazing to see just how your interactions have been, to find out why you want to start your book. A lot of us didn't know why you wanted to start a book. Some of us did. Some of you want to be bestsellers. Some of you just want to know what? It's time to show my family that I something and make it. Some of you just want to let the world know you exist. Let the world know you are alive and make it a better place as a result of you being in it. I am ecstatic. I am happy. I am honored that you have decided to play bigger in this space. And we are here. We are going to give you the business tonight. So, like Nikki Wood said, I hope you have brought your iPads, your pens, your pencils. If you need to record it, so be it. But we have something for you, and we cannot wait to share with you something else on later as well.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for coming.
Thank you. And so, like I said, don't forget, we definitely want you to share socially. Hashtag NYNB is what we want to use when you're sharing anything that you've learned. If you have an aha moment, if you find a tip that you know that you just you wouldn't have been able to get your book done without, we definitely want you to share. One of the things that I just want to say before I turn it back over to Asa, who's going to talk about some of the things that we're going to walk you through on this free training, is that most times people think if I write a book, it's just about the book. And it's really not just about the book. The book is really the first step. A book does so many wonderful things, not only for you, but like Asa says, sometimes you just have to say, look, this is what I've done, this is who I am, this is where I've been, and this is why you need to know me. But it also does great things for your brand, which we'll talk about. It does great things for your business, which we'll talk about. And it also does great things for media engagement. It does great things for speaking engagement. There's so many things that you can do, as April said earlier, to leverage the book. That the book really is just the first step, the first part of the journey. We want to walk you through the entire journey. So we're going to get right to it. We don't want to waste too much time. We are in the Facebook group, so if you have questions or thoughts or anything that you need clarification on, you can definitely post there. But I'm going to ask Asa at this time to kind of walk us through what we are going to learn during this free training. Asa, can you unmute yourself?
I hear me.
Okay, now we hear you. Thank you.
I was working on being polite and making sure I didn't overtalk or make any background noise.
Well, you definitely can't do that on mute. So, good. But no, if you can walk us through some of the steps that we're going to learn on the training, that would be great.
Yes. And so during this 90-minute training, this free training just for you, tailor-made just for you, these are the things that you can ensure that we're going to go over tonight. So the first one we're going to do, how to identify your target reader and how to create a marketable hook. Something else, getting it done, how to create a writing schedule. The next thing we want to do is how to write fast. You need to write the book. It's a new year, new book. There's less than 70 days, people. You need to do this now. Next, accountability. Who's keeping you accountable to make sure this thing gets done? Because if it was up to you, you'd have it by now, right? Right. Next thing, platform building and business. Who's going to read the book? The next thing, publishing options. So self-publishing, finding a publisher. The three of us combined are Captain Planet, but the three of us combined are also knowledgeable in these different arenas. Something else, how to protect and track your work. It's very important that you don't find your work somewhere else for free. And it's also important to make sure you know how many are out there being sold, being distributed, so forth, so on. Please remember that question and answers throughout the different lessons or the different tracks can be posted in the Facebook group. Please do so. Also, hashtag NYNB for social media. And that's it. I'll give it back to you, Nikki.
Thank you. So as Asa said, make sure that you're asking the questions. If something sparks, during our talk, you don't have to wait till we get to the formal question and answer period. You can feel free to post it in the Facebook page. I think one of the first things, and I think one misconception about writing a book is that you kind of just sit down and write the book. That should never be the first thing that you do. You should never just sit down and write the book. You really need to research the book. You need to research your audience, and you need to figure out who you're talking to. And so when we talk about brand, and we talk about business, and we talk about who you are and what kind of message, one of the most important things about that message is who that message is for. Who are you talking to? What are they supposed to walk away with? And how can you tailor the information that you're delivering to them? I think a lot of us could probably say some similar things. I mean, we probably, April and I both talk about brand. I'm sure Asa talks about brand. We could talk about social media. We could talk about any number of things. But the difference is that April and I will never say it the same way, ever. Because we're totally different people. We're totally unique in our experiences that we've had up until this point. And so the knowledge is really never what should sell your book. It's your style and who you are. And based on who you are and what your style is kind of how you figure out who your target reader is. One thing that social media has done for us all is kind of helped us figure out who our audience is. Most of the time, what you're talking about in social media helps you helps your audience self-identify. So they're attracted to you based on what you're sharing, based on what value you give that resonates with them. And we need to do that for your book. So looking at some of the other authors that are out there and kind of who their target audiences are, trying to figure out, like for me, mostly the audience that I talk to is female. I'm sure that I have some male followers. I'm sure that there's some men out there, and we're so glad to have you on this live training. Let me say that. But mostly who I talk to is women, and that's by design. And so most of my writing is geared towards women because that's my target audience. Mostly they're minority because that's my target audience. And when figuring out what your target audience is, I kind of liken it to a bullseye. Whenever we're shooting our arrow and we're trying to hit the bullseye, we obviously want to hit it in the middle. But if we're throwing a sponge filled with paint at that bullseye, we're going to hit it in the middle, but then there's also going to be some splatter. You always want to speak directly to your target audience, but know that that message is going to resonate outside of that as well. But you should always write with your target audience in mind. And usually the biggest way to do that is to figure out what your passion is and what your purpose is. And start talking about that. Start sharing that. And your audience, as I said earlier, will start to self-identify. Start asking them questions about what kinds of things are important to them. What kind of information do they need? What kind of motivation do they need? What kind of empowerment do they need? And start thinking along that line. Think about the kind of language that resonates with them. What kind of educational level that they're at, what kind of income level that they're at, and really super serve that target audience. That's the first step to trying to figure out what your book or your target audience for your book. And this is with nonfiction, and this is with fiction as well. One of the biggest lessons I learned when I wrote my first fiction book was that even though the languaging and the topic and the way that I couched the subject really spoke to my target audience, the cover did not. The cover, I really didn't want African Americans to be on the cover. I really wanted something else to be on the cover. And my publisher was like, that's not going to resonate with your target audience. But I didn't know everything that I know now. And I was like, I really want the cover that I really want. And I learned pretty quickly that it didn't speak to my target audience. And that was one of the first mistakes I made when with my first book. So you really have to think about all of those things as you start to move into that. And once you have that done, then it's thinking about the kind of schedule that you want to be on when it comes to writing. You would never get a book done if you decide to write whenever you feel like writing. I'll say that. Writing is like working out. You will never get that six-pack of abs if you just work out whenever you feel like working out. It just doesn't work like that. You have to come up with a writing schedule, and it's got to be conducive with your lifestyle. It's got to be conducive with when your creative energy is at its best, and you have to kind of come up with what's comfortable for you. It's easier for me to write early in the morning as opposed to late at night. It just is. And the harder I fight it, the less I get done. So I've just learned to go with the flow. I like to get up in the morning before everybody else wakes up. I like to go to a Starbucks because it's harder for me to write at home because there's just too many distractions. I'll want to do the laundry. I'll want to wash the dishes. I'll clean up. I'll do everything but write. I go to a Starbucks. I get some coffee, and I try to focus at least 2 hours at that time to writing. I think that once you come up with the schedule, though, that you have to stick to it. So you have to do what's manageable for you. So if it's dedicating a half an hour every single day, then that's what you need to do. Even if it's 15 minutes, then that's what you need to do. I think the one big mistake is that people give, they let too much time go between their writing sessions, and during that time they forget what they wrote about at the previous writing session. So then half of your writing session is refamiliarizing yourself with where you're supposed to be. So I say every single day, maybe take off a day, but not much more. And like I said, if it has to be shorter amount of writing time so that you can get it in every day, then I would do that as opposed to just saying I'm going to write every Saturday because I got 5 hours on a Saturday to write. And then increase from there, because for me, writing is like a muscle. And if you don't use it, you lose it. So you have to keep doing it, and the more you do it and the more of a schedule you're in, the stronger you'll get at it. And then the other thing is that once you have your guideline, once you have your schedule, once you have your purpose, don't think that you have to sit down and start on page 1 with chapter 1 and the first word and then write it straight through. I think that's another big misconception that people have about writing. You can write chapter 1, then you can write chapter 16, you can come back to chapter 3, whatever feels good for you. There's some days that I don't want to write a love scene because I'm just not in a romantic mood. Most of what I write for fiction is romance. And so someday I want to write a good argument scene. It just depends. And so when you force yourself to try to write it straight through, sometimes the flow isn't where it will be. So find your purpose. Once you do that, you will get your target audience. Once you do that, then you have to come up with a schedule, and then you have to write. So don't forget hashtag NYNV, and also post your questions in Facebook. I know Asa is in there diligently looking at questions because I can't always multitask. But definitely post your questions so we can make sure we answer them as we go. Yeah, he's diligently posting. Asa?
I'm here and unmuted.
Good. Do we have any questions or?
Right now, now, I'm looking.
Okay, I see Lisa is posting in the.
I do. I see Lisa Janelle, and hopefully I'm saying your name right. And so, think of National November Writing Month.
Oh yes, it is.
It is.
You know what? I think it's a really good way to get focused. I mean, I've done them before. I didn't really actively do it this month, but it's a great way to get focused. I think you're supposed to write 50,000 words in 30 days. And it's a really organized effort. So it's a really good way to find support groups. You know, there's a lot of people doing the same thing. So you can get support, you can get questions answered. There's a lot of knowledge that is shared by the organization. And so I've done it before, and it can be really, really helpful. And I know a lot of people do it. And there are even people, you know, like cities get together, and like in your cities there can be groups where you actually go and physically sit with other people and write. So I think it's anything that's going to get you focused on writing is good.
And let's see, you have time for one more, Nikki?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna search, and just to make sure everyone has the chance to ask a question. Right.
Well, while you're searching, I think a good thing to help you get organized is also just finding different writing groups. I think any kind of support system outside of November is good too. I mean, there's support groups in writing and Facebook communities and all sorts of support groups and stuff that can get you focused for the long term. So any kind of support, even more organized, more in-depth, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later, some things that we're going to be offering for you, but it's anything that you can do to stay focused is good.
And Nikki, we also have a question, the last question from Tony Ellis, just for this segment. It says, Nikki, with that first book and the mistake with the cover, did you re-release with a new cover? Should you ever re-release a book with a new title?
I don't know if I'd ever re-release with a new title, but I did re-release with a new cover. I absolutely did. It didn't take long at all to, I mean, you can just sit in a bookstore and have, you know, the cover of your book, you know, facing out and see, you know, enough people walk by and it not even catch their eye to know that it had to be re-released with a new cover. And so that was just it was kind of an expensive lesson, but it was a good lesson because it really got me refocused on how to talk to my target audience and how to speak to them, not only with what I write, but the visuals that I offer along with it.
All right. Did you want more questions, or did you want to go forward, Nikki?
Why don't we go ahead and go forward and get through, you know, some of the other teachings? We got a lot to cover. And I think if we stop periodically, especially with each section, and answer some questions, but then, you know, we can save some for the end too. So Asa, can you take us through how
Okay,
to
great.
fast?
I am ready.
Okay.
So, how in the world can you write fast? First off, what is measured is what gets done. Point blank and period. How do I know that for sure for myself? Because I wrote 2 books in Afghanistan. Yes, in a combat zone with bombs flying on top of me, shootouts and I wasn't an E1. I wasn't a private just taking orders. Captain, as a commander in the Army, writing 2 books. Now, I had to schedule time. I had to do what I had to do because I can't by the wayside. So I had to be very, very focused. So my time had to be measured in how in the world do you write 2 books during deployment. So how you can do that is using a mind map. So let's go. So I have this pad. I'm going to show you. Okay. So you draw a big circle in the middle. See that? Big circle. What you want to do there is you want to put your main idea there. That's the center. Next, draw out 10, 10. And I'm just showing you, just so it's not pretty, I'm just showing you basic upfront things. Draw the circle, put your idea there. Your main idea. Is this a nonfiction book? It's a fiction book. Okay, we're good. So on the next 10, you want to put your sub ideas that support your main idea. Does that make sense? So for instance, if you're writing about love, your 10 sub-ideas may be, foods do you eat to attract love? Those are your sub-ideas for your main idea. Now, the reason why I said that, because we want to go ahead and start working on your chapters. Become your 10 chapters. Now, this is a formula for those of you who have no idea how to go forward. Does that make sense? So, when you use a mind map, that's what it's for. Now, for the how to write fast as well. So I talked a little bit a minute ago about how do you, whatever you measure is what gets done. So for instance, I wanted to have 25,000 words by the end of the deployment. So I had 7 months to complete the book. So I divided it. What is 25,000 words divided by 7? And so I knew that every single month I had to ensure that I actually had that amount of words for my book. That's what I mean by it's not measurable. It's not real if it's not measurable. If there's questions, let me know, and I'll talk about those in a second. But I'm going to go to the next thing. The next piece is accountability. Who is going to assist you in getting this done? So as a result of me being in a combat environment, what did I have around me? I had contractors, I had soldiers, I had civilians in my space. So I pulled them. I said, look, I'm working on this project. It's going to become a book, and I want to know if you would keep me accountable. So I had said every this many thousands of words. And then as a result, and then when I give it to you, what I'm asking you in return, to be totally clear, I'm asking you for feedback. Is it making sense? Is it standard? Does it go with the previous thousands of words that you already read? That's what I did for myself. It helps to be accountable to somebody. When you're just doing things and no one knows you're doing it, your book could take years. It's a shame to have in your belly for more than 5 years, 10 years. I had a woman in May who had a book in her belly for 35 years. I'm 31. She could have birthed that thing long ago. And that's what we don't want for you. So, to go back over to recap what I stated, as far as how to write fast, get organized. Get organized. You don't have to be linear, because Nikki also said that a moment ago. You don't have to be linear. You don't have to write this page, this chapter, this page. Because my thing was, I knew my titles, I knew my sub-ideas, which became my chapters. So I might work on chapter 7 today. Thursday, I might work on chapter 2. I might actually just work on the introduction next week and get that hammered out. So you don't have to think about it like you have to start and stop every single a specific way along the way. Don't think that at all. And then also become accountable to someone. Someone needs to say, look, you said you were in this for 2,000 words. Where are your 2,000 words? I thought you were serious about this. I thought you wanted your new book the new year. What's going on? This time, I will definitely take those. Do we have any questions?
Well, we do have a question. One from Stacy, who just posted. She wants you to flash the mind map again so that she can see what that looks like. your lovely drawing.
I'll actually flash one that. So I was doing that because I wanted you to I want to let you know that it does not take rocket science to do this. I just want draw it out while you're on the paper. However, for those of you who are a lot more techie than that, you can get really specific and do something like this.
So it really is just a bunch of subject boxes connected to main themes and then smaller topics. I know one thing that I use that works well not only for nonfiction but fiction as well is storyboarding. And I know Stacy's familiar with this, but I storyboard my chapters and then break it up so I can see a moving kind of picture of where I'm going. So if I do jump around, and even with the mind map, if you do jump around, you never lose focus on where you're trying to go. So those are both great tools. I'm sorry, April, go ahead.
There was another question, too. Someone asked that perhaps you can speak to before we move on is, what do you do, and this is kind of leads back to a point earlier, what do you do when if you started a project, and I think this came from Tatiana, but once you start a project, how do you get remotivated to write again so that you don't lose that mojo, Nikki, you were talking about in the first segment?
Well, I mean, I think that for anybody, sometimes the writing process can be arduous. I mean, I don't always sit down at my computer and I'm like, oh, I get to write today. And I have said, you know, it's not always like that. But I think that if you keep in mind what you want the end result to be, who you're trying to motivate, and why this message needs to be shared, maybe you were in a similar place 10 years ago. And you wish somebody had written this book to help get you through it a little bit quicker. It's those kinds of things that I keep in my head when it gets to, Asa kept talking about the book in your belly, and to me it is like birth. It's like being pregnant, and it's like getting to that, you know, for ladies, you'll feel me, when it gets to that 8th month and you're 30 pounds heavier than you're used to being, and you know, your feet are fat and your fingers are swollen, and it just takes all you can do to continue to get to that 9th month. And that's the way writing a book can be at times. It's not always fun. It's not always cute, but it's something that when you know so deep inside of you, this message is going to empower somebody, this message is going to save somebody's life, this message is going to make somebody know that they're okay no matter what happened to them, then that's what gets you through, and that's what keeps you going, and that's what keeps you up at night or wakes you up earlier. You know, when I was writing this last book, I was at my kid's baseball game with my laptop and, you know, just typing because I couldn't stop. And that's what gets you through those days where you don't really want to write. You think about who needs this book.
I love it. Asa, and maybe Nikki.
Oh my gosh.
What?
I don't know. I got chills because I know there's so many people out there that have so many messages and so many stories that the world needs. They could save somebody's life, you know, that could really move them into their greatest self. And I think about all of that just sitting out there on the other side of my computer, and I get chills just thinking about the way we could move the universe just by writing the book. Just by writing the book.
Absolutely. I am in full agreement with you. I think Asa, you know, what Asa just said just about how to get it done, and what you're speaking to, which is something I'm super passionate about, which is, you know, living a life on purpose, which includes, you know, sometimes people think it's the simplest thing, but it really does start with the book. And I can just give an example, if we can bear with me for a minute. I've always said to my clients that if you write, your book will outlive you. Your book will outlive you, and I've always said that. Not that I've ever known anyone personally who has passed away who was an author, but then recently I did lose someone, and as I was walking, and it's kind of surreal, but as I was walking to view her, to the left of me was her book, The Faith of a Mustard Seed by Lisa Miller Baldwin. And as soon as I saw it, that feeling of, wow, her words, what she was feeling, that story that she was telling in that book is going to live on for as long as her book is available, which is forever. And that's an amazing thing, that you can leave such an impact, whether it's for entertainment, whether it's to showcase your expertise, whether it's to tell your life story, to inspire other people. But that's how deep it is to become an author. It's not just this frivolous thing. And I'm so glad that we're doing this today. The questions are just amazing. But that's how serious it is. So just to Nikki's point, you know, I believe that it's your responsibility to let the words go, you know, and to let them flow out of your head, off of your heart, onto the paper, so that you have that opportunity to not only be obedient to what you're feeling, but also do the work and serve the world in a way that it may not seem like it's such a big deal, because you may feel like one person, but it's a major big deal. It's a major big deal. And I'm just super excited for the people who will be going even beyond this point with us into our next. And I'm just looking forward to connecting and seeing those books on shelves. So, Nikki, I'm just loving your point. And Asa, I'm all about the meat and potatoes and the grit of getting it done. And we're glad you're back. We're glad you made it. Thank you for your service, and happy Veterans Day, too.
Absolutely. I didn't know he was a veteran. See all the things I learned about you when we did. Thank you. Definitely thank you for your service. I'm sorry?
I just want to answer one question Mary Boyce had posted in there in the group. She asked me what information could I give as far as writing 2 books at once. And so with writing 2 books at once, it is definitely important to you need to stay with the mission in mind. First off, why are you writing 2 books at once? 2, okay, you're writing 2 books at once. Who is it serving? Whose life is depending on the fact that this book will be real? I know someone who is writing a book about suicide prevention, about what it's like to go through suicide. I asked this person, it has been 2 years in the making for you to write this book. As a 14-year-old boy with a knife to my chest, contemplating suicide, if you would have come as I am a nerd now, if I would have read your book, my life could have been better. The people who you want to serve through your message in the forefront of your mind. It is indicative to your book being released faster, quicker, with more actual content. And I hope that made sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the one thing that I would add to that, Mary Boyce, is that, you know, you definitely, and that's when the mind mapping and the outlining and really knowing where you want to go when you're writing comes into play. Because when you have a clear map, it's a little bit easier to navigate, especially if you have to work on more than one project at one time. So we will come back to some of those questions, but I want to make sure that we get, because we still have a lot of important stuff to share. I talked about earlier about the business around the book and just writing the book being the first step, and I really want April to speak to some of those business items and what you do, you know, in order to get ready to publish a book, and what kind of things that you also have to do after you publish the book. So different publishing options, but also platform building and building an audience of people that are ready to buy your book. So April, can you talk to that for me?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things, first of all, I'm loving this. Following you all on Twitter, loving the feedback. I'm loving what's in the group and on the event page on Facebook. Just make sure that you're in the group, which is New Year, New Book. Please know that all your questions will get answered. We're live, so we will make sure that we get to every single one of them. You know, in reference to platform building, let me just say this. First of all, I love one of the first things that Nikki said was, the worst advice, or something, I'm paraphrasing, is to just sit down and start writing. Equally, is one of the things I find that new authors do is they write the book. They do just that. They sit down, they write the book based on only what they know, not based on their purpose and their hook and the angle surrounding it, which you all have already spoken to. But they launch the book, they release it on, let's say, Monday. And on Monday, they tell everyone that, hey, guess what? I wrote a book. And no one cares because no one was expecting it. There was no anticipation. There was no buildup. Kind of like, and we can use, again, the birth scenario. When someone is pregnant and they're excited about the possibilities of this baby boy or girl, they're telling everyone. Everyone knows that the baby is coming. Well, the book is the exact same. People ask me, when is a good time to begin building the platform? And my advice, honestly, is 6 months to a year before your expected due date for your book. So literally, when I wrote Confessions of an Independent Woman, I started marketing for that literally in January, and the book came out December 19th. Okay? So in regards to platform building, here are some things that must happen and that should happen. One of them is identify where your people are. So remember, Nikki already shared with you where that you need to know who you're speaking to, because the book is about the reader. Yes, you want to tell your story, but what I learned from my book coach that I coached with several years ago was who cares about you, and equally who cares about your story. So the book definitely has to be about the reader. It's about the reader. They're buying the book. So you have to connect whatever it is that you're sharing, information, entertainment, a fantasy, it has to connect with them. So where are those people? By identifying where those people, who they are, one, where they are, two, then you know where you need to promote. And of course, there's online methods of platform building and there's offline methods. So when I say platform building, I mean, if you plan on writing a book, then please know that you're building a business as well. It's not just, oh, I'm going to write a book, and then it's just going to sell. You'll sell a few copies to your friends and family, but if you want to really make the impact that you're looking to make, then you need to create a plan. So here's what that could look like. You look at your calendar and say, okay, it's November. Our goal with our mastermind coming up, which we're going to share with you as Asa promised earlier, but our goal is to get the book completed in 2015 and released in 2015. That is the goal. So how do you do that? So let's say you want a spring release. Is that realistic? How will you do it? Where do you need to be, both, again, online and offline? If you're online, what that looks like is, let's say your audience is on Facebook, for example. So if your audience is on Facebook, how are you connecting with your audience? So it's not about pumping and selling, I'm selling a book, I have a book coming. It's really about putting out there to the audience that the subject matter of the book. So not necessarily buy my book on this date, but starting to have the conversation about the subject or the topic of the book. And what that does is, over that process, it really plants a seed. Now, yes, you do announce occasionally that you're so excited about the book, but your regular platform building conversation is definitely not a sales conversation. It's just talking about the topics. And what that does is, by you putting that out there intentionally, it then attracts the people who are interested in that type of talk, in that conversation, in that topic, in that subject matter. So the platform building, I started, like I said, in January, and I didn't even know the title of my book. In fact, my fans chose the title of my book. So in platform building, you can engage your fans. I use Facebook heavily to identify, what I wanted to talk about, what people thought was important. Again, I still was able to get what was off my heart and in my head and be truthful and authentic, but I still engaged the people who I was expecting or who needed to read those words, if that makes sense. Make sure you post any platform building questions and let me know it's for me and I can answer. And Asa and Nikki can chime in as well because they both have done, obviously, a phenomenal job at this. So the platform building piece is really important. What else does platform building look like? Offline, that means connecting with your local bookstores. Your local bookstore is a gold mine. And by gold mine, I don't mean just money. I mean the community of people in a arena that you're moving into as a writer. It's a highly respected space. And so I give you an example as we shift into the business piece, is on the business side, there's I want you to look at what is my expectation as a author. Am I expecting to, because this is what happens. When you write a book, people want you to do what? Talk about it. Period. If you want to leverage it for business, which is what part of this training is about, then that looks like interviews, right? That looks like you speaking at local colleges. That looks like you speaking at different groups and conferences. It's a natural lead-in to speaking. And you may say, well, I don't want to speak. I don't want to talk about the book. Well, you're going to have to talk about it because you wrote it. So that does become a part of it. But you can say, okay, what part of this am I building? What do I really want to happen here with this book? Or is this just a passion project? The important thing is to be cognizant of why you're doing what you're doing, so that you can build upon that. So if it is about passion, then okay. If it's about a business, and that's what we're here to talk about, then know that there are some different ways that you can build on that, and that as a result of you becoming an author, you do have that opportunity to share in front of more people by way of speaking about your book, which means that leads to more readers, more book sales, more speaking engagements, leads to more readers, more book sales. I can go on and on. So ask yourself, okay, what do I really want to gain from this, and who can I connect with to make that a reality, and how can I actually get this done? One of the resources I love to give people comes from score.org. I am the queen of a profit and loss statement. I love understanding where money's coming in and where money is going out. So even though you may not be on the profit side of being an author today, there's still expenses that that occur. And I'm going to give you a little secret here. Don't let me off of here before I give it to you, but I want to complete this statement. So make sure that you are, go to score.org and type in the search field 12-month P and L. P stands for profit, L stands for loss. When you download that spreadsheet, the purpose of the spreadsheet is so you can see what you're expecting. So at the very top of it, once you download it, on the left-hand side of that spreadsheet is about revenue in. That means money in. That means book sales, speaking engagements, and whatever other methods you plan on or are anticipating to generate revenue. Okay? So again, you may not be generating it now. The purpose of that report is so you can see what it could look like for you as you're building a business. Then the second set of numbers towards the middle are your expenses. So what's in those blocks right now, change them. Change them to website, to book editing, to book, ISBN numbers, which Asa will talk about later. Change it to copyright fees. Change it to graphics. Change it to a copywriter. Change it to the formatter, right? Because those are all expenses that go along with developing a book and becoming an author, okay? Especially if you're self-publishing. So those are just some of the different ways in regards to platform building that I wanted to share with you. If you have questions, ask them in the group. And I want to move into publishing options. Nikki, do you want to pause here and take a question, or do you want me to keep rolling?
Let's pause and take a question. I saw a really good one. I think Stacy posted it where, this is one of my passionate subjects, but I know April and I think I have pretty similar views on it. But when starting to platform build, should you already use your existing platforms that you've already created, or should you start something new for the book?
I think it depends. I think it depends on what you were doing before. So that's my answer. I'm sorry, that's really not an answer, but it kind of just depends on, does it make sense? Is that the same audience? I think that's really the bigger issue, not if you need to start a new platform, but does the audience match? Because, let's say the audience does match. If they do match, then they won't mind getting another resource for something they're already interested in. Now, if it's totally different, then I would say branch off and, so for instance, let's say you're a nurse and you have a nursing blog, and then all of a sudden you start writing erotica. Well, that might not be a good idea, because those people, that's not the same audience. It could be, but that's another Google Hangout.
You'll do without me. Yeah, I guess my response is pretty similar, but I would avoid starting too many things. I think that one of the best lessons that I've gotten is that most of us have created our brand around who we are. So, most of the things that I do are pretty in line with who I am. So if you're following me, then you more than likely will support what I do. So I think it's too, we start doing too much when we start, and this is to an extreme, but I know a woman who starts a Twitter page for every single project that she does, and I think that what it does is it doesn't build anything. It just keeps you so busy you can't do what you're supposed to do. So I think, like April, you do have to use judgment, but I think that if you can build off of what you've already done, that you should stick with that, because when you start having to manage 4 different social media platforms for everything that we do, it starts to become too much.
Absolutely. There's another great question in here too, Nikki. It's from Jalicia. It says, if your audience and subject is kind of the same as someone else, how do you differentiate yourself from them? I'd love to answer this.
I would love for you to.
First of all, as original as we all would like to believe we are, there's a million people that can have your same type of story. It's not about that. It's not about the same subject matter. It's about your perspective. So chances are, no matter what you write about, someone has done it, or is doing it, or will do it, and they have never met you. There's 7 billion people in the world. There's no way that you're the only one that thought of that thing. So my thing is, do it and be original to you for your audience, because guess what? The person that wrote about the same thing from their perspective is speaking to their audience. That's to answer that question. And then, Nikki, there's another question. How does one get speaking on the speaking circuit?
I saw that, yeah.
My response to that is develop yourself as a speaker and get coached so that you can really cultivate that piece of your career. If you opt out of coaching, then my suggestion is to pick up the phone. Let people know that you're speaking. But before you do that, please know that you need to be developing your platform. That means that when they go to your website, is it consistent? Does it come up? Do all the links work? That means that do you have some referrals and testimonials on your page? One of the things we had a submission for speakers for an event I'm having, and we asked people to post their YouTube videos of them speaking, and several of them didn't have a video of them speaking. If you're approaching an entity who is driven off of speakers, and that's what they do, they need to see you. So be ready, even if it's you just on YouTube giving a talk like this, but it still shows you, it shows your personality, your voice, and it can show them if you're what they're looking for. So you can easily, seriously pick up the phone. I know that sounds basic, but for real, you can just pick up the phone and see what they have coming up and if they're looking for speakers.
Yeah, and one thing, and I just want to piggyback before we start talking about publishing, finding a publisher or self-publishing. My daddy told me one thing a long time ago, and he was teaching me to play dominoes. He said, all money ain't good money. And you can make a move, and you can end up losing the game because you were just trying to take it then instead of waiting for the long term. And then I heard somebody else tell it to me in business, and they were like, you don't want 100% of all the people. You want 100% of the right people. And that's the way I look at finding the right audience. We're never going to have every single person in America, or in the world, like April said, buy our book. It would be nice, but even bestsellers, that doesn't happen. But we want the right people. We want the people that are going to benefit from our message. And the way that I would tell you something is distinctly different than the way April or the way Asa would tell you, as you've seen. We all have distinct personalities. We all have distinct ways of speaking. April tends to shock me most of the time when she's trying to teach me something. But that's just who she is. And that's just, April and I had a planning session on Saturday, and I was telling her, there are a lot of great coaches out there that we all know, but not every kind of coach can coach me. And so it takes a particular kind of person that resonates with me, and that's the way everybody is. So you have to find, your right audience, as we said, that resonates with you. And that's not going to be my audience. That's not going to be Ace's audience. There may be some duplications, but your audience is your audience. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the way that this world works, and even more so, why we all should write the book, because you have a distinct audience that needs to hear what you have to say. And you saying, oh, well, she already wrote that book, or that book's already out there, or been there and done that, is not serving your audience at all. So that's just another reason that I think it's important. But I definitely want to talk about different options for publishing. I saw a couple of threads start in there. So, April, if you could speak to this as well. Self-publishing versus finding a publisher. What is the difference, and what are the benefits of each one?
Well, thank you. I self-published my book. Thank you, Nikki, so much. And thank you for the compliment, too. I just love you. I just have to say this. I say this every time we're on Google Hang. Nikki Woods, seriously, is the sweetest person I know. Like, she is genuinely there. She is just the kindest person. So I absolutely adore her. Publishing options. So I self-published my book. The reason why I self-published my book was because I wanted to maintain control. I wanted to control when it came out. I wanted to control how much money I made. I wanted to control if I wanted to redo anything. And I wanted it right when I wanted it. I want Nikki to speak to, when I'm done, I want her to speak to the publishing, because she went through a publisher. So we want you to have both perspectives. But for me, and I think Asa as well Asa uses a couple different platforms, but Asa and I have both used CreateSpace. CreateSpace was bought by Amazon about 3 years ago. And the reason why I love CreateSpace is because there's so much flexibility. You could literally publish your book for free. Seriously, you could literally publish it. So let's go through a few of the pieces that you know that you have to have when it comes to self-publishing, and I'm using CreateSpace as an example. Another reason I love them is because they have 2 different options. You can go through the paid option, meaning you can hire them to edit your book, to format your book, to do reviews on your book, to write your copy for your sales, to put your book on Amazon, to do your Kindle conversion, everything, okay? I spent $1,230 on publishing my book. That was the package I bought, and I got 20 books with it. Okay, this is like the real information. We're not holding anything back. I spent $1,230 on publishing my book. It was worth every penny for me because I didn't know a editor, and I had seen so many botched up self-published books, and I was not going to be one of those people. They also did the graphic cover design of the first version of my book. So again, there's different options. So you have the first, so let me tell you the process. Okay, so you contact CreateSpace, you have your manuscript, right? Your manuscript is 12-point font, Times Newman Roman, 1-inch margins all the way around, double spaced. Everybody got that? That's a manuscript. And then once you have completed your manuscript, you connect with them, and you can do one of 2 things. If it has already been edited, you can submit it to them to be formatted, or you can use their free formatting templates on their website. Again, professionally edited. That means that once you complete your first draft and you've done what I call soft edit, which means you've gone through it and to the best of your ability, the grammar is right, the tone is correct, and things make sense. That's not what I do. I hired an editor. Of that $1,200, $700 of that went to editing, and it was worth every penny. I'm going to tell you a little secret here on how you can raise the money to pay for your book production here in a moment. Okay, so then there is the formatting, which means how do you make it look pretty, with the correct spacing and the sidebars and bubbles and right indentions and all of those things. Okay, so then there's that. And then there is the they send you a final draft via PDF. You review it. If it's great, then they'll send you a proof copy in the mail. For some of you, you may have seen when I received my first proof copy, I posted a video of me boohooing like Oprah, doing the ugly cry recently. But that is exactly what happens with the process. The time period for me, I submitted my book on June 1st. This was 3 years ago. And it took about 6 weeks to get it back from the edit. I sent it back. It took another 2 or 3 weeks. So all in all, about 2.5 months going back and forth for the edit. I'm saying it this way because I know someone's already asked about how long does it take. Okay? And so for the self-publishing, those are some of the benefits is you kind of have that control. With CreateSpace, you also have the team that you can kind of go back and forth with. But I believe even on the free side of CreateSpace, again, professionally done is the word here. You don't play with your name, don't play with authorship, don't play at this level if you don't feel like you can dedicate the professionalism that goes with becoming an author. Because let me tell you something, I don't want a shabby book next to my book, and you don't want to produce anything but the very best for the people you're looking to serve through your words. Okay, so that's how the publishing went with CreateSpace. I think that the support is amazing, and I'm not getting paid to say this either, okay? I don't work for them. I'm telling you because it was easy for me, and as a first-time author at that time, I didn't want to chance missing something that I needed to know through the process. So that was the option that I chose. Now, here's a quick tip before Nikki takes it away. So people say, oh my goodness, I don't have a budget to afford that. And even if you don't go through them, whoever you go through, even if you hire someone externally, you have to pay for this. That's what self-publishing means. You are taking, you're assuming all the risk in your own project, in your own baby that you're birthing, right? And for those of you who are moving forward in the mastermind, then you'll get some of those, some of that deeper that we can go into. But for the essence of time right now, one of the ways that you can develop the money is by doing pre-orders. So my suggestion is it's cheaper to hire a professional graphic artist to design your book cover, create a sales page, or add it to your website. If you have questions about that, post it in the group, #NYMB. And you can then put your PayPal button up there and you can start taking pre-orders. The pre-orders that money goes to your account. You can fund your project. And you can ask for pre-orders 6 months in advance. It's perfectly normal to do that. Okay? So, and you control that. And so that when the book comes out, those are the first people who will get a copy, autographed, signed copy of the book from you are the people who participated in the pre-order when you had that available. And then you can then reinvest those funds directly into making it happen. And that feels pretty good to know that that's exactly where those initial dollars went, is into your into making the book a reality. And so those are just some of my ideas and some of the things that I've done in order to get my book published. And we're doing it again using CreateSpace. And just another tip real quick is that they also give you your own website for free when you go through them. So that even if you don't have a website, you do have a page where you can purchase your book from there. So there's lots of different options out there, and my advice to you is check and see what all is out there and do what feels good for you. But know that you can totally do it on your own, but there's also other options as well, which Nikki's going to speak to.
Well, and thank you, April. And I think one of the questions that was really good, and I think April and I both kind of commented on this, is about the timeline for getting your book done. I mean, they're very different timelines from writing the book to actually holding the copy in your hand, depending on how you decide to publish. Self-publishing is by far the fastest way to do it. Some publishers, major publishing houses, are on they're getting books in 6 months to a year ahead of when that book is actually going to be published. So knowing that and adjusting your timelines is such a really important. But like April said, I mean, I chose not to do self-publishing. And I think the reason that, you know, for me was I just didn't want to know that much about the process. I had a lot of stuff going on when the book was, you know, first out, and I just didn't feel like I had enough knowledge. But April and I had this discussion over the weekend too. But going forward, is that an option? Absolutely. Do you have more control? Absolutely. Do you make more money? Probably. There's just a lot of things that you need to factor in. There are major publishers, which would involve you probably getting an agent, also writing query letters to pitch your book. But then you are absolutely on their timetable, and you are absolutely, to a certain degree, at their mercy when it comes to your content. They have the right to edit, change, delete, you know, any kind of content that they may not think belongs or needs to be in the book. And that's just the way it goes. There are boutique publishers, which is what I publish through. And these are smaller publishing companies who may not have as stringent guidelines when it comes to when the book is published. They may give you a little bit more control over the content of the book, but at the end of the day, they are a business and your book represents that business. So they have a little bit more say over what is going to be in the book and how the book is going to be presented. And then April says self-publishing, which is a very viable option. I think the one thing that most publishers, big publishing houses, boutique publishing houses, and self-publishing, they all have in common is, one, you need to have a platform. You know, with my company, Nikki Woods Media, we've done a lot in helping authors with the platform building because they've gone to major publishers and the publishers have kicked back really great books and said, but you don't have anybody to sell to. You know, so whether you're self-publishing, whether you're a major publisher, or whether you're boutique publishing, having your own platform is very, very important. And editing is the one thing that I would suggest you never cut corners on, ever. Because you can have the greatest concept for a book, you can share the most valuable tips, and if there are too many different mistakes in your book, it will turn a reader off. And getting a reader back once you've turned a reader off can be virtually impossible. So you just don't want to do it wrong. And like April said, this book now represents you, it represents your business, and it represents your brand. And you want to make sure that you do it right the first time. So those are just some different thoughts. But I will say this, is that self-publishing is no longer, I think, and I don't know if taboo is the right word, but I think that there were certain judgments made around self-published authors years ago. And I got asked this question at a book panel not too long ago. Is there the same taboo? No, there is not. Self-publishing used to say, I think, to people that your book wasn't good enough to land at a major publisher. And that is just not the truth anymore. They're very qualified writers, authors, novelists, screenwriters, all of the above that have now chosen to do the projects themselves because we now have the options. And I think we continue to raise the bar, you know, as far as what people can now expect from self-published authors. So that is just my take on it. Are there any questions, Asa, in the group that we can answer real quick before we start talking about protecting our work?
Hello. So the questions are coming, and one said, conducting research to identify your target audience, what methods did you use, i.e. SurveyMonkey, polls, focus group? And this comes from Valencia Frazier.
And I think I responded directly to Valencia, but I'll answer, and if anybody else has any thoughts on it. I said all of the above. I said I'll post a question on Facebook in a minute just to get somebody's thoughts. And so I told Valencia has been very helpful in my research because she's always responding to questions I ask on Facebook. But there are so many ways to reach people, and a lot of times the best information you'll get is through just casual conversation. So I was writing a party sequence one time, and I was trying to think of party songs, and I was at a complete blank, and I posted it on my Facebook page, and I got like 100 party songs that I could then write into the scene. But you can ask, women how they would react in certain situations, or ask men what kind of information do they need to feel more confident moving directly, in the direction of their dreams. But SurveyMonkey works. You can do more formal. Like I said, sometimes I'll just go sit in a bookstore and see what kinds of books people are gravitated to. When it comes to covers and when it comes to content, where are people hanging out in the library? What kinds of stuff are they checking out? Research is all around us, and it doesn't have to be some big paid research campaign. Sometimes it's just asking a question.
And I guess I'll take one more question, and this comes from Erica Johnson. And the question is, when you self-publish, do you become the publishing company, or is that a different business?
Yes. You are the publishing company. You're the imprint in the process. So the answer to that question is yes. You are the publisher.
You don't have to make it your formal business, though. I mean, some people do that, where they've decided they want to publish multiple books, and then they also want to help other people publish their book. You don't have to do that, but April is right. When you self-publish, you are the publisher. All right, I'm going to jump back in the Facebook group. I know April is in there answering questions as well. But Asa, let's talk about protecting and tracking your work. People hear that you have to copyright your book, and everybody goes, "Oh!" It sounds really, really overwhelming. But I know that you can help break it down for us. So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay, so we are going to talk about protecting and tracking your work. So, to let you know that when it doesn't work, when it doesn't look right, that looks like something that happened to a family member of mine a couple years ago. They used a print-on-demand publisher, and a print-on-demand publisher, they own your work. Well, how do they own your work? They copyright for you, and they own your ISBN, point blank and period. And they can do anything with that ISBN. The ISBN is the thing that tells book agencies how much is your book, how much is the book going for, where is it supposed to be sold, different items within the ISBN, your publisher ID. Your publisher has an ID, and it is included in your ISBN. Also, your title ID is included in your ISBN. So that's something else to remember. Also, something called the Bookland Entry Code is also there as well. So and I'm pretty sure the others do as well. And I want to make sure I'm being very clear. ISBN, it stands for International Standard Book Number. International Standard Book Number. It is of the utmost importance that you own that. The reason why, because if you set your own prices, or you want to be in control of the price, that's what that is for. Also, with your ISBN, sometimes you're already thinking, not only do I want an ebook, because I think it's more cost effective to do that, I also want, so those are book with the exact same content with the exact same author. But what some don't realize is that when you have 3 different versions of your work, you have to create 3 separate ISBN numbers you go to get ISBNs. The website, the company that I went through was, and maybe April went there as well, was Bowker, B-O-W-K-E-R. That's what I did to get my ISBN. So you've gone through CreateSpace, you have the book. Well, they're going to ask you, what's your ISBN? When you upload your work, I have an audiobook expert excerpt on iTunes. They are adamant you must supply your ISBN. So that's what that is for. Also, how do you become a bestseller? Well, that's tracked. I started this entire thing when I first started speaking saying, what is measurable is real. Well, same thing with the actual publishing side of it as well. So when you sell 100 books, who knows that you sold 100 books? Who knows that you sold 1,000 books? It's tracked through your ISBN. And so that's what that is for. Now, there are more things that we could talk about for as far as the ISBN is concerned, but we'll talk about more of that within the mastermind group that we have free of us, but we don't have enough time right now. I want to be very mindful of your time. You want to spend time with family, so I'm very mindful of that. So the next thing you want to do is the copyright portion. At this time, please listen. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it probably more than once. A poor man's copyright is not what you want. I will say that again. A poor man's copyright is not what you want. So if you've never heard that term, what that means is take your printed material and you mail it to yourself, certified mail, and then in the event someone sues you for copyright infringement, you bring that certified mail copy not.
Oh, Asa, you cut out for like the last 10 seconds. Can you rewind and repeat what you said for the last 10, 15 seconds?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So we will not be using the poor man's copyright at all. At all. So what that looks like is being able to mail it to yourself and think about the idea of when you get sued for copyright infringement that you will then show your certified mail and say, look, myself in February, their book didn't come out till April. We won't be using that. This is 2014 and not 1914. So we will be using an actual copyright. So how do you get your item copywritten? Different things. So I know LegalZoom has something, Author House has something, but what I went through, my thing is I didn't want to go through third parties. I wanted to own everything and ensure that in the event something did intact. Through of ECO. That is the U.S. Copyright Office. This is where you want to go. Now, the Library of Congress, you can do that. You have that option to go through the Library of Congress, but that is not, it's not needed. You don't have to have a Library of Congress number for your book to be actually copywritten. So make sure you go there. Now, you can do that online, or you can actually take a printed material and actually send it into the Copyright Office. Something else that you want to be sure to understand the verbiage, do not attempt to trademark your entire work. Trademark and copyright are two different things. Please do not attempt to do that. It's a higher fee. It's around upward amount $300, and your copyright fee is less than $100. So be sure that you understand that. So to just recap, ISBNs are important. They're important because you want to be able to track your work. You want to be able to own your work, but you don't want to be suckered into someone else owning it. So for instance, when a print-on-demand publisher owns your ISBN and your copyright, they'll put your book of poetry on barnesandnoble.com, and you'll be excited. It's on barnesandnoble.com. Yay, yay, yay. However, your book of poetry is $25.99. And Maya Angelou's work is $9.99. So that really wouldn't make sense in business sense, in that if you have some person wanting to buy poetry and Maya is one and you're $25.99 for an ebook, that's not what you want. That does not make sense. That's why you don't want to have a print-on-demand publisher or someone owning your ISBN. So for myself, I knew that I wanted to definitely have more. So I bought a block. You can buy blocks of ISBNs, and I bought a block of 10. Still using them, however, with the way things are going next year, I'll have to buy another block because I would have used all of them up. So that's what I have for you, and I'm trying to be very mindful of time, so it's 7:20, 19:20 for military people, and so now I'll take questions on that.
Yeah, let's open it up for questions. Thank you, Asa. I'm glad that you're using your block up. It's very impressive.
And just to speak, while you all are looking for questions, just to speak to the ISBN, to Asa, that I love that you said you bought a block, and that's the block of 10 ISBNs is $250. One ISBN is $125. So for one ISBN for your book is $125. And if you buy a block of 10, that's $250. It's better to buy a block of 10 and not know if you're going to need them, just if you do the math. Okay, so you're saving, I mean, hundreds of dollars by just getting a block of 10.
Absolutely. Looking for questions. So if you have something related to ISBN, we have about 10 minutes left, and we definitely want to wrap up and point you to some valuable resources and share some more information with you. So if you have something on publishing, Erica, I think that April just answered your ISBN cost question.
Okay, also, while Nikki's looking at more questions, the cost for, I can't recall, Asa, if you said, but the cost to get your work copywritten from the Copyright Office in Washington, D.C. online is $35. The cost if you mail in 2 copies of your printed book or manuscript along with their online printable application is $65. So that, just so you know, when those details are on the on their website and it ends in .gov, I don't recommend using LegalZoom. It makes no sense. There's no point. Just go to the Copyright Office. They have made it easy for you to do it either online or via mail. Okay, so those are the costs for that piece, just to throw in, because y'all know I love the numbers. So give it to you. Nikki?
And no, the poor man's copyright is when you put your manuscript or whatever in an envelope and you mail it to yourself. We are saying you should not do that. In this day and age, you might as well get an official copyright, because there's all sorts of ways to circumvent things, and that is not the best way to do it anymore. So you should officially get all of your works copywritten. And not do the poor man's way, as they call it. I think that is going to do it for questions. We will. I've been kind of answering. Oh, Stacy just popped up with another question. We've been kind of answering them as we go, too, if we're not officially talking.
Okay. Can I say a couple things? Nikki, yeah. I want to talk about the mastermind and what we have coming up. So, first of all, let me just say this has been amazing. Your questions are amazing. We're getting to all of them. There are so many. We're answering them both online and here live on the Google Hangout. One of the things that we talked about when we decided to do this, and Nikki asked us to join her, was what can we do for people that are really wanting to develop something and really wanting that accountability and wanting to get it done. Because understanding we're all super, busy in our regular businesses. Nikki with the Tom Joyner Morning Show, Asa with the Genius Academy, and me with Women Recharged. But we're so passionate about this because we're all authors, and so we decided to put together a mastermind for 25 people to work with the 3 of us over a 6-week time period starting December the 1st. And so we want to invite you to join us in that opportunity to get your book done, get your questions answered, have us through that process, and really accelerate from where you are today, from concept to a real plan to getting it done to having those tools and those answers. And so we want to work with 25 people who are really looking to do that. What we want to do is, this is a private invitation that you all are getting first dibs on, the people in the group. And so what we want to do over the next 6 weeks, starting December the 1st, is have 25 of you join in on us. And for that 6-week time period, we are offering, and let's just say, if you wanted to hire the 3 of us, it would be, we tried to do the math, and I don't even think we could, Nikki, right? We tried to do the math on what it would cost to get the 3 of us wrangled together, and it was upwards of $10,000 based on our individual coaching fees. And so what we decided to do was put together this mastermind for $597 for the 6-month time period, or you can pay it in 3 installments of $199. And that offer is for those who are really looking to step it up, and you really want to do the thing. You want to cultivate and grow your career as a new author. You want to be able to build a business out of it. You want to get the book done. You want to be able to have access to answers on a consistent basis. And that's what we're here to do. We all know that you have what it takes, and we know that sometimes you just need the guidance to get it done. You need the answers and the simple strategies like the one I just shared with you that could pay for your whole project and the coaching with the 3 of us. So if you're interested in that, what I want you to do right now is hop in the group and let us know that you're interested. Hashtag I'm interested, and we will take it away. This is very this is a very exclusive group that we'll be working with. Nikki really doesn't work with people in this way. This is really a phenomenal opportunity, not only for us to learn from her as we go through this process as a bestseller, but also for you to connect with myself, Asa, and Nikki in this way. So if you are interested, let us know you're interested. We'll post the links in the group so you'll have access to them. And then tomorrow, we'll open it up for the public if we still have some spaces available. So again, it's $597 over that time period and $199 a month for 3 months if you want to pay it in installments. For tonight, and tonight only, for the Google Live people, you can save $200 and pay $397 in a one-time payment. And the coupon code for that will only be posted in the group tonight. And then, of course, tomorrow it's fair game. So we're giving you all first dibs. And, Nikki, I know we're about 3 minutes, but listen, if we go over time, please know that it's because we're answering your questions. We don't want you all to get off here without getting those answered. So, Nikki, back to you. I just want to make sure that everyone knows how to do their next thing. What is the next step for the ones who are wanting to take it to another level?
Thank you, April. It is. I am super excited. I shared it earlier, and I continue to be excited. There is nothing more fulfilling than to see somebody actually birth this baby. I mean, and you know, I can be godmommy to a lot of babies. I'm good with that. I would love to see everybody get their book birth in the new year. So I am super excited about Ace's willingness to partner up with us, and April, who is planning conferences and live events and VIP coaching, for her to carve out some time and to say yes to my big ass. So I'm super excited about this, and I encourage you not to let this opportunity get away from you. I mean, truth.com, you know, if we all could do it on our own, all of these books would be written, but they haven't been. So do yourself the favor, give yourself a gift, and give the world a gift by joining with us. There was an interesting question by Stacy. I did find the question, Stacy. And so I think this would be interesting to speak to as well, about self-publishing audio print books on Kindle or on other ebook platforms. I think that's a phenomenal question, because I think that there's room for all of these different mediums to be used. And I think that for those who are willing to do their audiobook, it serves a different kind of audience. Some people don't read. Some people like to listen to their books. I know several people who do that. So anybody have thoughts on that, on publishing audio?
I think audio is an amazing idea. My husband listens to audiobooks. I mean, he doesn't even read his books anymore. And he reads every day. And he listens to his books when he's running. I think there's a huge audience for audiobooks. I highly would recommend it. Especially, I mean, it doesn't even matter what genre you're in. I listen to audio books myself in the car via CD, as well when I'm traveling and I'm on those long road trips. So I think there's definitely a market for that. There definitely is. So I say go for it. Have a plan, and if that's something you want to incorporate, I think you should absolutely do it.
And I know different, podcasting and that sort of thing has become really, really popular, even, in the past decade, but even more so in the past 2 to 3 years. And iTunes makes it really easy for you to publish different things on their platform, and Blog Talk Radio is a really good forum just to share different audio pieces. So I think it's definitely something that's worth looking into. So thank you, Stacey. I appreciate you.
Oh, Nikki, one thing we didn't touch on, I know we didn't say we were, but someone did ask about, the media, and when you write your book, the possibility of getting on TV or radio or in print or in online blogs. Because you're in the media, can you just speak to what does it mean to be an author? And, does that carry any weight? Is it necessary? Is it what you're looking for when you're booking?
No, absolutely. When you write a book, it could be, and this is not anybody in this group or anybody that, hopefully we'll get a chance to work with, but it doesn't even have to be a good book. But as soon as you write a book, people see you as an expert. They think if you had enough knowledge in your head to put it in the pages of a book, 60 to 80,000 word count, which is the average amount, that you have got to be an expert. And that's the way we all think, and that's the way the media thinks. That is why people have said that a book can be just a very expensive business card, because it opens doors for you. And so when I'm looking to book experts, or I'm looking for, somebody to speak to a specific topic, I'm looking for the person who probably has written a book on it. That really specializes in that kind of content, whether it be financial, whether it be motivational, whether it be fitness or health. I'm looking for the person who has written the book. And once you write a book, it makes you more searchable in search engines. So if I just type in financial expert, most of the people that are considered financial experts, they're going to pop up because they've written a book. And the name of their book is going to pop up and what the book is about. And I'm really easily going to be able to decide who I want on my airwaves. Now, I will say this. It's not just the book. So once I do find you and I do call you, you're going to have something to say to me. So you're going to have to be able to sell yourself, as April said earlier. You're going to have to be able to have conversations around this book and make it interesting enough for me to put you in front of my 8 million listeners. You need to know how to pitch the media, which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about in the mastermind. And you need to know how to give a good interview. You need to know how to talk in sound bites around your book. And this is for fiction authors as well. You have got to be able to interest people in what you're offering. And that is the knowledge, that is the entertainment, that is what is wrapped or placed between the two covers of that book. So, and I hate to talk because I don't know if they're in the Facebook group or not, so I don't want to give too much information. But you can't just email me and say, I wrote a book, I want to be on your airwaves. That's not going to cut it. So you have to know why this book is of value. Not that you've just written the book, but how is it going to help my listeners? How are they going to be better after this interview because I chose, or one of the other producers chose, or Tom chose to put you on the airwaves? How are our listeners going to walk away better people? How are they going to walk away with the tools that they needed? And how are you going to make me look like a hero because you wrote that book and I was able to find it?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nikki, because I know people have a lot of questions about that. And I'm not sure if you want to. We are 4 minutes over. Everyone is still on almost. We haven't lost people, so that means that this is some really good information. So we're going to give you guys about 6 more minutes. So if you have any questions, we suggest you ask them now. If you have any questions about the Mastermind 25, then ask us those as well. You can ask them directly in the group. The links have been posted. Again, it's first come, first serve, because we can only work with so many people. And we're looking forward to creating some bestsellers and creating some people who know how to leverage those platforms. And Nikki, too, you know, sometimes I think people think because they wrote a fiction book that that's not something that the media wants to hear about. But you've been extremely successful with your bestseller, Easier Said Than Done. Can you just speak to the fact that it doesn't have to be a nonfiction book in order to get the media coverage as well?
No, it does not have to be a nonfiction book. But, like I said, you need to be able to have conversations around your book. So one of the things that I was able to do with Easier Said Than Done that has been very beneficial, not only for media, but also for speaking engagements, is I was able to pick out, because every book has a theme, whether it's fiction or it's nonfiction. My books happen to be based on relationships, not just intimate relationships, but also with friends, with family, and I was able to come up with conversation topics and coaching topics and speaking topics based on the themes of my book. One of the themes with one of my main characters is her not loving herself in the ways that she would act out in the book because she didn't view herself as worthy of having all of these great relationships she seemed to have. And what does that look like, and how can you overcome that? And that is a much broader topic than just a fiction book. And so it was really kind of, and nobody else is doing that, and we'll be able to help, you know, fiction writers if that's something you're interested in. We'll be able to walk you through this process of determining the different themes of your book and how you can create conversations and programs and speaking topics so that you're not just talking about your book, you're talking about things and giving tools that will help people live a better life or walk away with something that they needed before they heard you speak or interview. So it was extremely eye-opening. Like I said, I don't know any other fiction authors that do this. So it is, it's been a great thing for me to learn, and that has helped my walk as a fiction writer. So it's been really interesting.
Thank you for answering.
You're welcome.
People are asking for the link, so we're posting the link in the group. We're about to shut it down. Nikki's going to close us out. I just want to close and say thank you all for joining and listening to us. The group is off the chain. Your questions are amazing. Stay in it so that you can see what other people are saying and maybe get a question answer that you didn't know you needed to ask. Because, again, part of this process is not knowing what to ask because you may not have been through the process. And so you definitely want to gain, you know, that additional knowledge as well. So thank you all for joining us. I hope you'll continue to follow me at Women Recharged. And Asa, I know you probably have some parting words as well. I'm signing off, kind of.
Well, hang out in the group for a little bit because there are some more questions, and we want to make sure that everybody, you know, walks away with what they need. Asa, final thoughts?
So I hope everyone can hear me. I hope that I'm being very clear. My thing is, yes, we have a mastermind and we are looking for 25 people. We are wanting to ensure that we give you our best. So that's why we have that number. What we do not want for you is to go another month, another year, another lifetime without the thing you so desperately want, the thing that keeps you up at night, the thing that you cannot shake, the thing that you look at everyone else posting about their books and you're saying, why not me? When is it going to be me? When is it my turn? Your turn can be now. You have the option to choose. We are going to give you everything we know about this industry. When I wrote my book, I had no idea what I was getting myself into and had no coach whatsoever and was in a combat zone. Believe me when I tell you, I can get you where you need to go. There is no reason why I wrote a book there and then within the next 6 months had booking engagements for my book. We are telling you what we know. It is your time. We are ready for you. We want you to play bigger in the life that you want for yourself. All you have to do is say yes.
And sometimes that's the hardest thing to say, is to say yes to your dreams. But that's why we're here, because we want to help coach you through it. Thank you so much, Asa. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, April. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate you hanging out with us. As we've said several times, we don't take this lightly. Your time is more valuable than anything that, you know, we could ask you to give, other than your genius, other than your purpose, other than your book. And we are here to assist you with that. I know I don't want to wait any longer. I know there's things that I need, and the book hasn't been written yet. And so maybe somebody in this group can write that book for me. But we want to hang out in the group. We do want to honor your time. But it's important that you do say yes, and you do say yes quickly. That you say yes before you can talk yourself out of it, before you can give yourself more excuses and more reasons why you can't do it. Say yes to the one reason why you can, and that's because the world needs you and because you have a support system. We talked about a community, and we've created that for you tonight. We are not going to abandon anybody, and there are other writers in the group, very qualified writers in the group that are lending their voices as well. So what we just need from you is for you to say yes to writing that book. But we're going to close it out. I'm going to join. I can't type and talk at the same time, but I am super excited. Thank you for sharing. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for sharing. I don't know if you guys are blowing up Twitter. You're blowing up our Facebook group, and that is amazing. I'm seeing the things that people are tweeting, and it's really good stuff. So I'm really excited about that you all are already creating these conversations that we need to have. So thank you for that. I'm not one for long goodbyes, because like I said, I'm going to hop right in the group, and I'm going to chat with you some more, but we really, really appreciate you, and we value you, and we can't wait to read that new book in the new year. Good night, everybody. Thank you, April. Thank you, April.